Let's go through the NPC dialogue tree here.
Okay, let's go through the
I love that
NPC
you've
dialogue.
identified Addison as an NPC already.
Well, you could. Addison is literally standing there in Skyrim, and you've just said like,
Totally.
you just said like definition of female, and you're waiting for the pre-recorded dialogue response. You know,
Exactly. No, that's what's happening here.
You just female, you said, right?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Is
Okay.
a biological female.
So what happens if we have maybe someone who is female, identifies as a woman, right? You know, cisgender woman, right? As you just explained, maybe doesn't have the ability to reproduce. Maybe doesn't have those organs that you're talking about that are reproductive organs.
I have answered the question. You stood up here and said trans women are women.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood.
So
I love that he just cut it off right there. He's like, nah, I don't have time for the NPC dialogue tree.
this is a very, very smart tactic because he probably doesn't have a punchy answer to that question. So it's a very good tactic to just be like, fuck you. I answered the question. Now I want you to answer the question. Like they just completely turn it around.
Yeah.
Because there is, when you get down the NPC tree of this, you know, deconstructing gender, like that's what they're trying to tangle you up in that nonsensical framing of mind. And that's the problem. You just can't adapt that framing.
Yeah.
But
and
people
it's
don't,
just pointless.
right? But people generally don't walk around thinking about like, oh, how do I categorize things in my mind? Like that's not a process that people think about, so they're unprepared to have that kind of conversation.
Is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not
But
myself.
you used the word. So what did you mean when you said trans women are women if you don't know what it means?
Right?
Oh,
That's a good point.
I think I just figured out. I was trying to figure out what Addison said there.
She said interrupting.
Yeah,
He
interrupting.
was complaining to Dr. Phil. She's like, Dr. Phil, can you stop him from interrupting me?
Right.
Dr. Phil's like, well, I can't. I invited him here to have a fight with you. I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't understand. The king is talking, okay?
What? Why do you think you guys
Tell
are
me
here?
what you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not
But
myself.
you used the word. So what did you mean when you said trans women are women?
That's a great. Well, that's why it's weird because this is why I say I kind of felt bad for these two people because, like, these aren't just bad. These aren't just like bad arguments. These are bad arguments for the trans community.
Yeah. These people have never thought about any of this stuff.
Well, they've probably never argued with anyone. I mean, these are not, you know,
Right.
the internet debaters and all this stuff. Because I mean, this argument, only a woman can say what a woman. I mean, I haven't even heard that argument from all these, you know, woke socialists. Usually, they have some kind of answer they can give you because they know that this is preposterous. They just say, "Oh, I can't tell you." It's like, well, if you can't tell me, then who the fuck are you talking about when you say woman?
Matt Walsh was talking like Addison and Ethan are activists in like classroom settings and stuff.
Well, according to the little blurb under their name, it said that they were some kind of like community organizer or some bullshit.
So you would think they should be forced to examine these arguments a little better than
you
that,
would
right?
hope.
Yeah.
Well,
this is like Kim Hans showing up in your evolutionary biology class. Nah, not gonna happen.
Not quite.
Women, if you don't know what it means.
Right. So here's the thing. So I do not define what a woman is because I do not identify as a woman. Women.
See, doesn't identify as a woman.
I like that face. That's the appropriate reaction to that statement.
This is what I don't. This is.
Ask her what a dog is.
I'm so confused by the non-binary because the non-binary is basically picking from masculine and feminine traits a la carte, which I don't understand how you can say when you're literally picking traits from the binary. It's like, can't you just, get your own shit? Like, why? There's nothing outside of the binary, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. But that's the inherent. I mean, that's why I think there's inherent contradiction in the non-binary stuff.
Yeah.
Like, listen, just be a man or a woman who doesn't fall into a stereotype. That's totally fine. Just to be that. You don't need to say like, oh, men and women are stereotypes. So if I don't fit a stereotype, I'm not a man or a woman.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think that's a good way of conceptualizing gender or sex.
There is a stereotype that's This is where you don't necessarily know what sex they are. That is kind of a stereotype, like a third stereotype.
Okay.
Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
That describes what?
who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
Was to each their own. Each woman, each man, each person is going to have a different relation with their own gender identity.
See, this
This is so dumb.
I can feel Helen Joyce, the author of that book, just her mind just exploding here because like these feminists that have been a part of the second wave feminist movement for like 2-3 generations.
They're
now.
rolling over in their graves.
Yeah, they're like, what the fuck? Like we have gone out of our way to construct a society that respects women. Like we have changed the definition of women tangibly in a way that has benefited women as a class, as a group for 50 years. And then someone comes in here and like, we just whatever you feel like. It's like, fuck you.
Well, and also it's funny too, because even a third wave, a radical feminist would disagree with this completely, because they would say, oh, a woman is, these sets of traits and roles that society has foisted upon females to oppress them. Even they would have some answer to this, even if you didn't agree with it.
Yes.
This whole like, oh, I just can't give you an answer. Like, this is the worst argument I've ever heard regarding to any trans issue, is that I can only identify things that I experience, which defeats the whole purpose of being able to identify things.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, it's like, Adam, can you identify the color blue? Well, no, Sitch. I mean, not being the color blue, I don't know what that is. I'll let the color blue decide on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, Addison, do you know what it's like to be, can you identify a black person? Well, not being black myself, I can only, black people.
Of course.
That. Oh, okay. So I guess we're throwing racism out the window here, because if it's entirely based on self-identification, there must not be system. How can a system oppress someone based on a self-identification that only they experience and can tell you?
Wouldn't you just self-identify as something else to get out of that oppressive system? That's
right. Exactly.
That's what the women are saying to them, right? Saying to themselves right now. Oh, wouldn't it be great if I could just like opt out of sexism?
There you go. Why? Exactly. Why doesn't a woman who's living under a sexist patriarchy just say that she's man? Yeah. And then that fixes everything, right?
Yeah.
That solves the problem.
Oh, God. This is why people are losing their minds over this clip.
We did it, Adam. We solved sexism.
So many people are losing their minds over this clip. This is probably one of the first introductions that a lot of normies are getting to non-binary too. Which I'm not surprised, because these communities, man, they're vicious with one another. Like the non-binary community is probably just all over Addison and Ethan right now, talking about, oh my God, this is how you represented us. You made us look like idiots.
That is what exactly what's going on. An actual American flag, I'm crying and saluting, for $20 says, I hope everyone here is having a great Sunday. And if you're not, go outside and talk to grass and eat people.
What?
Wait, I think I messed that up. Well, anyway, here's to a great stream. I think you might have reversed that, but yes. Mr. Rich Low Pitch for $20. Thanks so much. Says, what's the difference between someone who is transgender and a tomboy? I knew girls back at school who dress like guys and like football, but would say that they're a girl who just likes masculine things if asked. It's kind of funny because it's actually a contentious question, because whether tomboys are considered transgender is up to the eye of the beholder of how you're defining transgender. Because most people think of transgender to just mean, oh, you have gender dysphoria, basically. But the official term transgender just means you don't identify as your birth gender. And so if you're one of these people that says, oh, if you're not a stereotypical female, then you're not a female, then under that definition, tomboys would be transgender. It's totally incoherent.
Yeah.
Alphabet for 25 Aussies. Says, I don't get what gender even means anymore. It used to be a thing about language, then it became a whole other word for sex, then it became sexual preferences, and now gender is about people's interest. So mayonnaise is a one. There you go. Are you mayo gender, Adam?
Mayo gender? I mean, I'm technically white, but I don't think of white as a gender.
There you go.
Well, the in the book, this is something I hadn't
Hold
really.
on, I'll be right back. You
you're
tell
leaving?
Chad about the book.
But I want to tell you, it's very interesting.
Well, I'm about to burst here. I
Okay.
might have drunk like a gallon of green tea before we streamed for
Are
a
you
very bad reason.
Are you trying to not get COVID? Because that's a good way not to get COVID.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Of course.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, constantly drinking a lot of fluids. Here, I'll just play some of the video. We
You
can
play some of
rewind
the
it when you get back.
Identity and define it differently.
That doesn't-
And so
I'm not
trans
asking for
women are women too.
Okay.
And you want to hold on.
just said it
Hold
again.
on.
Trans
You
women
want
are
to
women.
reduce.
What you
listen,
won't even
listen.
tell me
you
what the
wanna
word
reduce,
means, though. So
you
that's
want to
the
reduce
problem.
women. You want to reduce men down to maybe just their genetics, our genitals,
No.
our chromosomes, right? That's what you're
What
saying.
you want to do is
See, they are trying to, Addison is trying to force a genetic argument onto Matt Walsh. I know that's what's happening here, and it's totally sadistic. I can't stand it because they want to basically say that if you respect any biological sex differences, then you are basically effectively a eugenicist of some kind, which it's a terrible, insidious thing that they do. But that also is part of the NPC dialogue tree. Like, how do I paint this person as a terrible person? They can't argue on actual logic or points or anything. All these people participate in his character assassination. That's all they know.
That's what we
What
are.
you want to do is appropriate women. You want to appropriate womanhood
Okay.
and turn it into basically a costume that could be worn.